No, okay.
Are you ready?
Now you're ready.
Please turn off all cell phones. The agenda of the Pumpkin Lake Zoning Board of Adjustments, November 26, 2024. The following is the agenda of the regular meeting of the Pumpkin Lake Zoning Board of Adjustment. The meeting is to be held in the Municipal Building, 25 Lenox Avenue, on Tuesday, November 26, 2024, beginning at 8 o'clock. A written advance notice, as required by NJSA 10:4-1, et cetera, has been provided of this meeting at least 48 hours in advance of today, given the time, date, and location, and to the extent known at the time, the agenda of this meeting. Such notice stated that formal action may or may not be taken. The meeting will be video recorded and will be broadcasted for later viewing for the public. The notice was posted on the bulletin board outside the offices of the municipal clerk, reserved for this and similar announcements, provided to the Suburban Trends, the newspaper designated by the council and planning board to receive such notices, and filed with the borough clerk. Everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
Here.
Mr. Abate?
Here.
Ms. Curran? Here. Mr. Koss.
Here.
Ms. Bernstock?
Yes.
Mr. Rowan?
Here.
Mr. Baig?
Here.
Mr. Luciani will be absent. Mr. Fagula?
Here.
Mr. Devanti?
Here.
Okay, and we have Mayor Sarah, Councilman Cruz, Andy Brewer, and there will be no engineer or planners tonight.
Okay. Let's see here. Minutes of the regular meeting for October 22nd, 2024. Everyone had an opportunity to read those minutes?
Yes.
Any additions, corrections? If not, can I get a motion to accept those minutes?
Thanks. And Curran?
Can I get a roll call, please?
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mr. Abate?
Yes.
Ms. Curran?
Yes.
Mr. Koss.
Yes.
Ms. Bernstock?
Yes.
Mr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Baig?
Yes.
Mr. Fagula?
Yes.
And Mr. Devanti?
Yes. Okay, we've had multiple correspondence. They are available for review. If you'd like to, you can see Carmelina after the meeting, and she'll give you those to review. There's just too many, too big to attach to the packets. Okay, so we're going to go right to the applications. BOA 24-07, Silva 70 Barber Drive. Please come forward.
You guys you were both sworn in, you remain under oath, you still have to tell the truth. Before you talk, state your name again, just for the state your notes.
No, just state your
Oh,
name.
my name, Israel Silva.
Justin.
Please have a seat. Okay, so this is a continuation from the last meeting, in regards to his application on 70 Barber Drive regarding the pool and fencing and deck. So why don't you, tell us what you, provided and, explain your pictures, and then we'll start to have some questions for you.
We provide the upscale pool survey of the, and some photos of the pool and measurements with our tape measures and the pictures and stuff like that for where everything is generally located of the pool. And we also have the location of where the pool pump is in the current existing condition, which, as discussed in the previous meeting, we discussed that we all agree that we should remove it from that location. And our idea here is to seek permission to leave the pool in its existing place and to make the modifications necessary to make sure it's up to code and bring everything forward.
So we had some questions on your application regarding your measurements, and I see that you basically delineated all those measurements. Now, there was some question regarding the shed that's, I guess, towards the front of the property.
Yes,
That shed is that the one that was removable?
yes,
Okay. And your concrete, that shows as concrete, those are actually pavers, is that correct?
they're just pavers, yes.
They're not, so it's not a solid mass
No, they're-
of concrete,
They're
it is
permanent,
pavers.
yeah.
So that was also part of the conversation regarding your lot coverage, was it correct? Because we thought it was concrete.
I believe so. I don't believe that we discussed lot coverage during the last meeting. I do know that in my previous notes, we was indiscretion up to what it was that the main inspector had questioned about why the pool was on the fence line, and we clarified that when we spoke with the person. It was about the location of the fence and how there was actually a space, but based on his line of sight, it looked like that it was over the fence when it was not. And we here also provided photos of that as well.
Sure.
Just one or two questions. You have, some of these measurements are from the chain link fence and from the vinyl fence. Has somebody confirmed that those fences are on the property line? Are they over, are they under? Because the measurement has to be from the actual property line.
I looked at the property line on the survey, and I compared them to what was there. And from my experience of looking at property lines, the fence is on the inside of the property line.
But the question is, do we have anything that stipulates that it's from the property line or from the fence line?
So the measurements that I have are from the fence line.
So we're not sure if it's the property line at
From
this
my,
particular time.
from my understanding of the white PVC fence, the property line is on the outside of that.
But we have nothing definitive to tell us that.
There are no land markers there.
And what do you base your understanding on?
Well, I've installed fences many times before for other clients, and I have experience with that. But when I was looking at the properties, the two properties combined, the other neighbor does not have a fence, and this fence, he has the vinyl fence, is actually his fence. And statistically, if you need to install a fence, you need a permit. It needs to be inspected.
You want to be sarcastic, but you need a permit to install a pool and a deck and everything else too.
That is correct,
So,
but
that doesn't always happen that way.
Well-
But, and I think that it appears that the fence in the back is over on the other side, is that?
That's what it depicts here. It's on the other side of the property line.
So, and I'm not trying to be hard, I just want to make sure the measurements are correct. I don't have a vote here, I just want to.
On your original plan that you submitted, right? Excuse me? On the original plans that you submitted, the fence is beyond,
Yeah. No, that one is right. This one is the old scale of the, okay, so when the architect did that, he sent it, I didn't have that, actually, I request for that, for that paper. So I sent the first one that the architect sent. So this one, you can look at better, but that one is the one that is correct. The chain line is in the drain part, but the pool is on, all the pool is in my property line. We know that from the rail trial guy, because he went to my house, he told me that it's 13 feet from the rail to the house. from my property line. So the pool is inside the property line. It's on the edge, but it's inside.
The pool is in your property line,
Yeah.
that is correct.
Yeah, but
But the deck,
Not the deck.
the deck is not. The
No,
deck-
the deck, yes, the deck.
Not according to this diagram.
Let me see. Which one do you have? This one?
I thought we were talking about the vinyl fence for a second, so excuse me.
No, we're talking
Yeah,
about the
chain
fence that's up against the railroad.
Yes, so the chain link fence here, we have,
Is actually shown on this diagram
Yes.
to be on the railroad's property, not your property.
yes, and based on this diagram here that you're showing me,
So you're basically, your deck is on, not your property.
because
It's on.
from the fence line
Let me see now.
to inside, we have a photo depicting the location of the
See,
deck.
this is it. Right here. And there's the chain link fence
15
beyond
and
it.
15, no? Okay.
Yes, that,
Right?
It's canted.
Am I seeing that correctly?
yeah, the,
If you have to move the deck.
on this document,
Yeah. Yes.
and maybe if you can't,
I don't have that.
I
Sorry about
understand. This was submitted with you.
that. Yeah.
On the first, on the first.
Yeah, on the first submission.
Application.
Maybe you come up
It's
here.
right here.
Just so we understand.
Thank you, Miss Kamalin.
Or here's the, this is the original.
No, it's not that one. It's that one. No, it's not the one that he has. It has finished. This one, with the book. No. You have it? Take a look. That one. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
On the top left.
If you're looking at this is depicting the property
Yes.
line. There's the chain link fences on the other side of the property. Your deck is on the other side of the property line.
I would just need to know on the scale graphic is what the scale ratio is between the fence line and this, because I do know that the deck is sitting 16 inches, 15 and a half inches in the
So what we have a problem with is that this is not, nothing is clearly telling us where your end of your deck is. Is your deck on your property or on the railroad's property? And I can't tell you,
by the graph.
by the graph. And this is what we,
What does that mean? The scale, was it 0.1,
And
0.9?
the deck, which is this.
good luck with that. This is something you need to tell us.
1 second.
So they want this.
I can't. No, but we
I have
got
it blown up here, 2 to 4.
There's no two that's
What does that mean? I have no idea what this is.
That's what I was messing with.
So 0.1, 1/16 is supposed to be 2 feet. I see here in this corner on this blown up one, it says 0.1 to equate 2.4, which looks like it's supposed to be 2 feet for every 1/16 of an inch on the tape measure. If we were to take a tape measure and measure off of these lines that are currently to the scale on that survey there, 1/16, which is 0.1 of an inch, should equate to 2.4, which would be 2 feet, 4 inches. So this deck in the back half, because the deck sits at 15 inches, we would have to modify the deck about 10 inches to 12 inches to accommodate to guarantee that it sits back on the property line. Does that make sense or no?
I mean, it sort of makes sense, but it's not very clear.
I'm not saying what should have,
Yeah.
what you can do should, and none of this, please don't take any of that. Your application contains only the property that he owns.
Yes.
So if something is going over the property line, they have no ability to approve that, to say you can do that. They have the ability to prove you can do up to the property line. I don't know if they will.
Yeah.
And they might not. They might want you a little bit off that property line. But if that's there, they cannot approve a deck that is over your property line, because that belongs to somebody else's property. They have never asked, they haven't come here and said it's okay, so
Well,
no matter what, it can.
I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
My main concern was the neighbors. I know that even though it's a railroad and they technically are a neighbor, there is no traffic back there besides a train and maybe some live animals here and there. But my main concern was not to disrupt any of the living neighbors that are next door. And I would mainly put most of my attention on the vinyl fence, not really in the backyard of the fence. And it was my fault because my judgment based on assuming this chain link fence has been there for many years. I just assumed that was on the inside of the property line based on the way the fence is installed. So I know Israel got that.
Understand that it may have been there for that long period of
Yeah.
time, but it's still a requirement of the applicant to submit plans and to get a permit to build a deck of that nature where you built it, and that didn't happen. So now, we're in a situation where now we're trying to understand everything so that we can make a decision based on the data that's presented to us.
Yes.
Okay?
So based on our findings and what's discussed here, I would like to make sure that the deck sits within the criteria of what we were asking for, and I can make sure that it's on the property line itself. If I have to modify it, I can modify it for him. And then we want to have the ability to leave the pool in its existing place. I can move the deck back. It shouldn't be a problem at all, so long as it's up to code and everything is inspected.
That's all I have for questioning, so if you gotta open up to the board, anybody that wants to ask the applicant questions, feel free to go ahead.
Well, who was the person that did this drawing on the survey?
He's a friend of mine, he's an architect, his name is Rafael Danon. He works in Fairmont.
I take it the chain link fence was there when Mr. Silva bought the property?
Yeah.
So let's get on a conversation regarding the fence then. So what's the situation with the fence, the final fence? Whose fence is that? Is that your fence, their fence?
Which
Your
fence?
neighbor's fence? The vinyl fence that runs between the property lines.
That's based on the way it's designed, it's facing, the installation of it shows that it's Israel's fence.
It is Israel
Yeah.
fence, okay.
That was there when you moved in as well, then?
Yes.
And the heater and the filtration system, that you were agreeing to move that under the deck?
Yeah, under the deck, on the innermost part of the deck, like right
Now-
side of the stairs area
The
there.
power lines and everything else that are under the ground
They will all have to be removed and rerouted and inspected.
and inspected, making sure you meet all the criteria regarding the building officials' guidelines, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Which side of the deck are you putting it under, as far as the pump system?
I would like to put it on the side of the deck where the stairs are.
Mm-hmm. So it's the opposite side of where it is now.
Yes.
And what about, this is a heater, if I'm not mistaken, the one unit?
It don't work.
Is the fan suitable to be blowing hot air right through your deck? Is that deck going to be wood? Is that deck plastic?
That's a composite deck, and Israel no longer wishes to have that installed. He says it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
He says it creates
It don't really hit the pool.
All right, so you're not installing the heater,
No, just the
you're only gonna change, the filtration system's gonna be underneath
Yeah,
there.
and for the record, this heater is only a 110, 20 amp heater.
Mhm.
It's not a gas powered unit or anything that's crazy, so,
Mhm.
but it will not be there.
Okay.
Did you have the filter or the heater inspected?
No, ma'am,
No?
nothing on this project, to my knowledge, was inspected.
For the record too, there is no permitting of this project.
At all?
This was a contractor, not me, told Israel that he could do this because it was a kit that he bought online, this whole pool kit. And he was unaware of all the setbacks and guidelines and everything, as this is his first home that he has purchased, and he just moved his family, and he was so excited to move in here and everything.
You're talking about
Israel.
Israel?
Yeah. And when he called me, I got frustrated with him because, dude, I'm a contractor. I know you almost 20 years of my life. You know, like, why didn't you call me at the beginning? All he said is he didn't want to bother me. So,
Like, it's very complicated at this point.
it is. And it's costing now more than what the pool cost and what the contractor took, because apparently there was some money that he took as well and
Sure.
didn't come back. And as soon as the town got involved, the guy just took a hike. So. And that's why I'm here, a licensed contractor as well. I did a lot of work in this town, and I did a lot of work in other towns as well in the local area. He's building a house in West Milford, and I want to help him here to get through this process. So finish this, get it inspected, and that's it.
Can we maybe recap on what issues, if the heater is, I'm sorry, the filter is moved over? That's one question, and I don't think, as long as it's with the building department, that's no longer something that's on the side setback, right? It's no longer an issue as far as setback goes.
The issue that we have is there is still a side yard setback because they ran underground electrical to this unit. So that has to be removed and then, re-ran and then inspected. And the, property line from the fence to the edge of the pool, that doesn't meet the criteria as well, because it's narrow.
All right, so what we have, if he were to move the filter over, the issues that we have to approve are the distance of the pool and the deck to the side yard. We have identified that we have an issue that we cannot approve, which is putting a deck outside of the property line. We cannot approve that, and that we're talking about, his recommendation or suggestion is to bring that inside of the property line, and how much is up to us to discuss. And outside of that, I mean, is there anything I'm missing? Other parts of the variance that are required?
Well, there's the amount of property involved. I think he's allowed
Impervious you're talking about?
25%,
There is,
and it's up over 28.
as part of the original denial, his coverage was 29% and his permitted is 25%.
29.
Was that based on not knowing it was favored though, or was that based?
I don't have all those, that information in front of me. I don't know if it was the pool, the deck. Did it include where it states concrete? In reality, it's pavers, so then that would.
But we don't know.
So I don't know that.
And we don't know where the fence is, the vinyl fence is, in terms of the property line.
Correct.
Yeah, when the last time you had a survey? You had an updated survey?
That's the last one,
When you bought the house, did you have a survey?
Yeah, that's the one.
That's an updated survey?
Last week, because they did. So, there's a lot of unknowns here still, okay? we suggested at our last meeting that we get a total understanding as to what it is that you're asking us for, because right now we don't have that.
Yeah,
We don't have, the side yard setback, where is it gonna be? Is that from the fence or is that from the property line? Is the vinyl fence where it needs to be, or is that still an issue? The back of the deck where it goes against the chain link fence. We need some really good information as to whose property is this deck on? Is it on your property or is it on the railroad's property? Then you're gonna need to come back to us and say, okay, we understand that this is where it's at, this is what we're prepared to do. We're suggesting that. If that's not what you want, you wanna go and see if the board will approve, that's up to you. But there's a lot of unknowns here still.
not to interrupt, my concern is the pool. The deck was built around this pool, and I can modify that easily without any troubles, no problem whatsoever. If I have to dismantle this pool, it's one of those kits that once you dismantle it, it can no longer be reassembled, and you have to buy a whole new pool over again. Now, I don't mind modifying the deck as much as we can to keep the setbacks correctly. We would like to keep the pool itself in the original location, as the deck is freestanding from the pool. They're two different items. So the pool itself, we were asking for it to stay in its location, and we did provide measurements, but if they're not accurate enough, we can get that more accurate measurements for you based on what we have here installed.
Is this something that you can go to the building department and have Sal give him some guidelines as to what it is that, what the requirements are, and like I said, what's the next
He
one?
has to be 12 feet off the line for the pool. That's number one.
And I know from previous experience, when you do a filtration system like that, it has to be so far away from the pool for when you run your power. So that will also determine where you're gonna need to put your filtration.
Yes.
So that's something that, the town has, guidelines that
Yes.
help you. And based on that, it would be, a recommendation or a suggestion, to get all that together.
All of that can be moved. The concern is the locking mechanisms based on the pool itself. Once that liner is destroyed, it's,
And I understand that.
Right.
But I'm thinking is if you get all that information from the building, for Sal, and have all that, then that will help us determine if the pool can stay right where it's at.
Right.
But to have us, if you're asking us, if that's what you want, we can, consider it and tell us exactly what you're asking for at this meeting, and then we can vote on that. But right now, as I'm, sitting here, there's a lot of, questions and not a lot of answers yet.
I understand. We had a meeting with Sal, and based on the notes and the photos that we had pre-submitted, we kind of had an okay from him that was like, because he saw all this stuff, he said, it all looks good to me. He said, propose it to the board, and that's why I'm a little
Okay, well,
confused.
here's, the good thing about it is I don't think anybody's swimming in this pool until neck.
Yeah.
So you're not fighting to do that. I mean, I hate to say it, but the best way for the measurements is a surveyor. That's the best. Unfortunately, that is, just to find out exactly where that property line is. And then you can say, then you can amend your application to say, we amend this application for the rear deck to be 1 inch, 3 inches, 9 inches, whatever it is, whatever you cut off and make it. So then you come back and they know exactly what you're asking on how far that is. And then with the survey, you can, the distances they all are, and also find out the impervious coverage, which, that's water
Yes.
doesn't go down, so it runs off. That's why there's a limitation on 25%. Pavers, if they're pervious and their water can filter through, they're not really counted. I think the other meeting with Sal, figure out, was he taking into account that you have pavers that water can go through or not? If the calculation is still 29%, because he said, yes, those count in the impervious calculation, so yes, it's still
Yeah.
29, then you ask for 29.
Well, Sal did walk the property and he did see these photos, so there was no
But
question.
Sal's not here.
But how-
He's not here at the moment, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
It's hard
Sal's not
to
here.
talk
And I
about
would
him.
respectfully ask that if there's been changes, then Sal maybe submit something to us so that we can get a better understanding of what their conversations were.
And Sal's probably has a gut reaction that how you build it, probably gonna be fine. And his okay is that moving things, moving the pump from one place to another is okay. He doesn't care where this board decides where you can put things. His okay is, yeah, it'll work physically. He knows how to build things. He doesn't make the decisions on how far they can be from the property line. So he wouldn't be giving the okay on that, I know Sal. He'll definitely be giving gut reactions on, yeah, you can do that, that'll work, something like, yeah, he knows how to build things, absolutely. But the distance, that's them.
Okay. Okay.
He updated the denial.
What?
He did update the denial.
That was updated?
It's in the packet.
The one that you asked for.
In what packet? His packet?
Yeah, I
In
put
the
it in.
Front cover.
You're supposed to tell us that.
No, but here, it's still saying that your lot coverage is 29% requested, 25% permitted. So there is still a question as to what is.
Coverage. That is a question here, because it doesn't say, it doesn't, we don't know if he was taking into consideration the pavers, you're absolutely right.
And if not, if he was or not, all you're gonna have to do is ask. And so when you come back with all the measurements and a survey or something, you said, we'd like to amend the application to include a variance to have it 29% rather than 25%. And they can then consider it, but he's telling you right now it's 25, you need that variance. It's not a big hurdle to ask for it and amend your application, that's not the problem. Just, I know I'm being a stickler, but I gotta know what to write so Sal can then go out and measure from property lines, make sure everything is where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And again, we're in the winter, no one's using the pool, and I know it's a pain to have to come back, but I think that's the best, that'd be my recommendation. That's where we go.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best, and, go ahead.
So one suggestion based on what you just said in terms of testimony about concern of the pool is it would be very helpful to minimize every foot that you can on the distance to the fence. And so the deck that you're showing that's butting out past the pool, to me, that should be, you should consider shaving that off as a means of helping us to, come to an acceptance of the proposal.
Yeah.
And I only speak for myself, but, to me, it's like, why push it, It's already, supposed to be 10 feet, right? And so-
Yeah, I mean, I didn't build a deck, I wouldn't have built
Right,
it
right.
without permits anyway, so. We do know that it does need to be modified. We take into consideration getting the deck, getting the furthest distance of the pool itself and leave it at that and bring the deck inward. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, what I'm saying is where the line is that shows 4.6 feet, the pool, I believe, is a little bit more if I'm reading this right.
Yes, the pool
Okay.
itself is larger.
All right, so why bring this in? It must be another foot or, 8 inches, or I don't know what it is, but that should be straight along the line of the pool, shouldn't exceed the pool.
I understand what you're talking, yes, you're talking about the distance. What I just said is that we'll shave this back so the furthest distance of the pool itself remains the only distance that's.
Correct.
That stays there, and it
Correct.
becomes a straight line squared off.
Exactly.
One of the last things on Sal's
Newest.
Yeah, letter.
says at the bottom, install, I don't know if that's supposed to be installed, or install fence will need zoning permits.
He has a swinging door that he added to the fence that was existing. And when we were discussing about the fence, he wanted to make sure that the fence is appropriate to code, where you need the self-closing latches,
Okay.
locking mechanism, because the fence itself.
Around the pool.
Around the pool, yeah. Around the pool, and to make sure that the fence on the existing property has the proper latching mechanisms to open and close.
Agree. Okay. Okay, so,
So you good on what you should come back with?
Yeah, I have a better understanding of what it was. Because originally it was discussed what we wanted, then we talked to Sal, and then he said to present it like this.
And I threw wrenches in it by saying I need precision, sorry.
That's okay. That's all right, it's not your fault.
I think the ultimate goal is to get it right and get it going the next time and then be done with it.
And that's why we're here. Because if that wasn't the goal, we wouldn't be here. So,
Understood. So you're okay with carrying this to the next meeting?
it's no problem at all.
Okay. Now, our next meeting will not be in December, it will be in January, correct? Carmelina? Okay. We're not
So
having one.
that, once again, be the fourth Tuesday in January, 8 o'clock. There'll be no further need for notice.
It's Tuesday,
Tuesday?
not Thursday.
I thought it was Thursday. Thursdays, last Thursday I was here.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Oh, were
I
you?
was like, yeah.
Okay. Very good. Okay.
Justin, if you could give me your information as well, I can update you.
Yes,
Like-
ma'am.
Okay. Like the email and phone number?
Yes. It's 973
973
626
626
8363.
8363. And how do you spell your last name?
A, V as in Victor, I-S-H-A-Y.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to do a new survey. We'll talk about that later.
Okay?
We good?
We're good.
Thank you so much.
gentlemen. Ladies.
Enjoy your Thanksgiving.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving to all.
Happy Thanksgiving.
You too, thanks.
You too.
Thank you.
Before you go to your next one, I think Mrs. Snow would like to say something.
I don't have any issue.
Hold on.
We heard
Hold
this
on.
last- We heard, yeah, we heard the testimony.
Wait, please. Please sit down. Please sit down.
You guys are done.
You guys are done. You guys are good. Thank you. Okay. So,
Israel,
if this is not
I'll call you.
part of the testimony that
Justin,
was
congratulations.
just given, then we're not ready for this yet. Okay? Correct?
That's correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
To open up that application.
That's correct.
Somebody just had a baby.
Now, I lost my
Is this for the next application that's coming?
This is next.
Is it for this that just happened? No.
Yes, thank you.
That has to wait, then anything else has to wait till the public.
This one I have to recuse myself.
And you'll get,
Okay, then I'm gonna go.
Okay.
It should be the next one.
No, it's BOA.
you want, you can amend the agenda.
Okay, so what we'll do is, we'll amend the agenda and we'll open up the floor to allow Mrs. Snow to,
I have no issues. All I want to say again is what I said last time that you were here, that I was here, that I just want to support the builder that built the refurbished that house that's diagonal across from me and two houses away. I just want to support him, and I don't know what the issue is, but I know that all we want to do is bring back Pumpkin Lakes. And now I see, I didn't even realize you were here last time, that I've been here since 1979. And Pumpkin Lakes was very different then than it is now, and we're trying to bring it back. And his building and the beauty that he has brought, just to what I know, I just want to support him, and I don't know what the issue is, and I don't really care, but I just want you to know that what he's doing is exactly what we want to do for Pumpkin Lakes. And if I were you people, I would see whether he could go, if you would be interested in doing other building projects in order to beautify Pumpkin Lakes. And that's the only reason why I'm here. And he's not a friend of mine. I can't even pronounce his name, Africa or something like that. But he's a person that I'm just astounded that there might be a problem. And I just want to say that we all are very grateful to him and what he has done for our Pumpkin Lakes. And I just hope that whatever the situation is, that you grant him help, because he's doing what we want to
Okay.
happen in Compton Lakes.
I moved here the same year you did, 1979.
And I taught here in this school for 38 years. Maureen Burns, I didn't even realize you were here last year. That's because I was nervous.
It's all good.
So anyway, thank you for letting me speak.
You're welcome.
I just can't stay otherwise.
I'm just gonna call her.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
No.
I don't know what the problem is.
No,
Pardon me,
neither do we. We have to hear it.
We have to hear it.
What?
We haven't heard
We
testimony
haven't heard
yet.
it yet. That's why we're waiting.
That's what we're waiting for.
Oh, okay,
Okay?
all right.
Thank you. You're all good.
Should I stay here for?
Ma'am, it's totally up to you, but you're gonna have to wait until after
Oh, no.
the application
Okay.
comes
I
forward.
said my thing.
Okay, understood.
And
Appreciate
his
your time.
support.
Okay,
And it's not just me, we all support him.
okay. Thank you. Okay, so, we're going to, go to, BOA 24-08, forgive me, Eldrin, on West Lennox Avenue, Pumpkin Lakes. Please come forward. Apologize. No, we're going to West Lake.
Please, could you both raise your right hand, state your name,
Magda Aldrini,
can you spell your last?
ELDRENY.
Please state your name, spell your last.
Taha, first name, last name, Aldrini, ELDRENY.
Both hands up. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes?
Yes.
Please have a seat. If you're in the letters at 200 feet, yes or no?
Yep, and he should remove himself from the room. Do I have to remove myself?
Yes.
No, you're not a board, you're not a.
He's not a board member, but he's a member of the public only.
Yep, that's where.
The reason why Frank has reclused himself is because he's in the proximity of your
The
house.
neighborhood,
Okay.
yes, I know.
So that's the reason why he's reclused
It's
himself. Okay. So why don't you tell us about your project that you're going on here, why you're in front of the board looking for a variance?
Okay, I asking the board to, okay. First of all, I built the shed because the wind takes the shed out. I built it. And I read in the website, if it is less than 2,000 feet, you don't need a permit. I do it, my neighbor saw me, she complained. I went to her and she told me, yes, you have to get permit. Even I have the house with the shed. I don't build it in the beginning. I move a whole step, except she tell me I have to move from the fence to the shed, 5 feet. I did that. The other side, 5 feet. The only problem now, I have it from my deck to the shed. It's supposed to be 12 feet. Now it is 8 feet. I ask the board if she give me, to use the
The
shed.
variance for the shed.
Thank you.
Now, in the denial letter, you all done? Okay. In the denial letter, you're in the floodplain also. You're aware of that, is right? That's something that needs to be understood, that you're building a structure in a floodplain.
But it was before,
If it was before, we have to go by what's being installed. If it was permitted before or not, probably, it's not we have to address what's being asked of us. And based on what Sal's denial letter, he's basically saying that this is in a floodplain, regardless of what was there before. Rules have all changed.
So unfortunately, we have to abide by them. And it says it must follow permit by rule number 13. Minimum distance between the buildings is 12 feet, which you already addressed. On drawing of the shed, not on the scale for sure, okay. Okay, I understand what your application is, but at this point, we're gonna open up to the board and let them ask any questions of your testimony.
The shed that you replaced, is it just a bigger shed than the last one, and that's why it's
No, the same.
same exact
same
size?
Have you experienced any flooding there where it says it's no flooding?
I don't know about the flooding.
Never.
Anybody else on the board have any questions for the applicant? None? Go ahead.
I see on your plot plan that, the shed on this one is okay, and on this one, there's scratching out. And the problem with the shed is that it's too close to the fence.
No. In the beginning, it was too close to the fence,
It was close to
but
the
I
fence.
make the construction to break it down and move it because it was before 3 feet only. And when I went to the town, she told me, no, you have to be 5 feet now.
Right.
I tell the construction, broke it down and move it 5 feet.
Okay, so
Now
now it's 5 feet.
It's 5 feet both sides, and everything, it is normal except from the deck to the shed.
Okay.
So I'm understanding what happened here is the roof blew off and.
They had wind damage and took the roof off the
Right, so the
old
shed-
structure.
The old shed.
So the old shed has
shed,
been
the-
replaced with the new shed
Okay.
and doesn't meet the coverage.
We didn't know we need
It's
the
basically-
permission for that, because we just replaced it.
Right, and now, the question is now that it's too close to the deck.
Right.
So that's what they're asking for a variance for. And the other issue that Sal has indicated that it is in the floodplain, which is something that's gonna have to be addressed, but that's for Sal and the applicant to take care of.
So what that means is that this board can bend the rules or give you a variance to allow you to build things too close to your deck or the side or whatever. But in the floodplain, they don't regulate that. Sal will, there's another entity that regulates if there is, if your property is in a place where sometimes it floods. There are other regulations. This board can't give you that permission. Sal may be able to help you with that one. But I just want you to understand
Yeah.
what that meant.
I
Right.
only think to ask the board if give me permission to leave it at 8 feet.
You may need someone else's permission also, because it's Sal pointed out it's in a flood area. So this board can't give you permission to build in flood area. Other entities may, if you can demonstrate a few things, but
Not
that's
flood
not
area?
this board.
Yeah.
Hold on.
That's a Sal, that's a Sal.
No, it is.
So here's, the board can approve your request to, reduce from 12 feet to 8 feet.
Okay.
That's the board, that's what our authorization is.
Okay.
However, you're looking to build something in a floodplain. We have no jurisdiction over that. That's Sal and other entities that you would have to go to see if this could be built. We can't tell you, we can approve the 8 to, from the 12 to 8, but the other portion of this, that's something that we cannot vote on. We can't give you authorization for.
Just, quickly, it says, I think you said might be eligible for permit by rule.
Right,
What
perfect.
that means is,
Yes.
briefly, sometimes you have to go and you have to provide and go give testimony and provide information. A permit by rule is if you can demonstrate that you meet a few standards, then you have the right, but you have to establish that. Sal can tell you what the permit by rule requirements are. That's something that you do. It's a little less cumbersome, it's a little less detailed, but Sal can tell you what you need to
The
demonstrate.
inspector? Who's that?
Set the building inspector.
The builder.
But that's what a permit
Okay,
by
I
rule
inspect.
is.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else on the board have any questions for the applicant? No? Okay, at this point, I'm going to open it up to the public to speak on the testimony that was given by the applicant.
Michael Sarah, 41 West Lennox. I happen to be the neighbor across the street. The question I have for the board would be, this shed has been there for 30 years. It was decrepit now, it fell apart, so they were replacing it, probably doing the right thing and trying to put a new shed there. The problem became that they couldn't put the shed in the same spot because it was too close to the property lines. So they did the right thing, they came to the town and they moved it. Where they're getting caught is just what you brought up, is the flood zone, which they're not aware of. So that's a new rule that the state has passed that says if you're in a flood zone, you can't build anything. That's for everybody in a flood zone. We all in that area are in a flood zone.
I'm in a flood zone, so I
If
get
I don't, if I know it, I don't even.
So the question I have for the attorney or for the chairman is if they had built it in the exact same place, would this still exist?
So what they would have needed to do is ask for a variance for the backyard setback and the
Right.
side yard setback, and they can probably put it right back where it was.
So
So if they want to amend their application to ask for that, again, we would then entertain the idea of that variance request. However, the floodplain still becomes the issue.
So either way, the floodplain.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, that was, I was just trying to say if they had put it back where it was, maybe they didn't need the floodplain.
Yeah, and I don't know, if permit by rule, the permit by rule may say the exact same thing, it's been there since before X.
Correct.
Because the new location wouldn't qualify. If, in fact, that was the
That's
standard
right.
for permit by rule, putting back in the exact same place may satisfy. I apologize, I don't know.
But-
Right.
Sal had that.
So Sal would be able to direct them as to what that permit by rule is.
Yeah.
When I put it in the same place,
You said you have to
she
move
tell
it.
me I have to move it.
Right,
5
because
feet from this side and 5 feet from this side.
basically that's the ordinance, right?
Yeah, I understand.
However, you can ask for a variance of that ordinance. Just like you're asking us for from the 12 feet to the 8 feet, you can ask for variances and ask that side yard and backyard setbacks to be changed. And basically,
No, I can't change it, I spelled it already.
Well, I think that's something, this is just me talking.
Again-
The resident. Okay.
so we're done with the public session, so I'm going to close the public session. So let's go back to your application. So if that's something that you would want to do, either way, you're going to have to talk to Sal to get an understanding of what this permit by rule means and how you would be able to build this structure.
Okay.
Okay? But what you can ask us of the board is to say, we're looking for a variance going from the 12 feet to the 8 feet. And that's what you're asking. If that's what you're asking for, you have
Yes.
to let us know that's what you're asking. Right? So that's what you're asking.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, you're not done yet. Okay, so now we have an understanding what you're looking for.
No,
Question?
I,
Go ahead.
I think it doesn't matter, and this is just, because I've been there, I also, after 50 years, got called in a floodplain, and I wanted to fix one panel of a broken fence, and it was too much trouble, so I left my
I
broken
went
fence
through
up.
a lot.
So I think you need to decide, I don't think it's gonna matter whether you put it where it was, or if you
I do-
move it.
I live in over there,
It's your decision.
since I got the house, I didn't know we are in a flood area.
It's a variance either way. And,
Right.
yeah, I think they
But the-
should
but-
take care of
but-
that,
but the-
whatever
the-
they want, and then go to Sal about the
The floodplain.
Rule 13.
Right. Okay, so is that what you're asking the board? You're asking the board to consider the variance request from 12 feet to 8 feet. Is that correct, from the edge of the deck to the shed? Correct?
That's the variance, that's the application.
Can I get a motion from anyone on the board to approve or request or deny that request?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Subject to, of course, the floodplain.
Meeting the requirements of the
cell and-
floodplain and the building permit, the building building inspector's rules regarding the floodplain.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Okay, so we have Rowan and Bernstock?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mr. Abate? Oh, sorry. Ms. Curran?
Yes,
Mr. Koss,
Yes.
Ms. Bernstock?
yes,
Mr. Rowan?
Yes.
Mr. Big?
Yes.
Mr. Fagula?
Yes.
And Mr. Devontae?
Yes.
Okay. So, next month, December, there'll be a written resolution that gets published in the paper. And then you have, in 45 days after that, you could go talk to Sal, although now you can go talk to Sal next week, whatever, say, it's been approved, it's coming, but start to work on the, figuring out the flood hazard area.
What to do about
You
the
have to work
flood
with him. You can let him know, if you then get approval from him on the flood hazard area, you could go to the building department and you could sign a waiver that says, I understand I may have to wait 45 days, someone may challenge it, and you could then get your permit if you get approval from Sal.
Okay.
Okay? Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Well, you want to take a 5-minute break and I'll go get Frank?
Sounds like a plan. Take a 5-minute recess.
Taking a 5-minute recess, is that what you said?
We're taking a 5-minute break.
Give anybody a break.
That's what Danny told me, he was supervising us.
interesting.
When did
Ready
they
for Marlena?
change that rule?
Time, 9. Okay, 9:02. Got it.
Ready? Okay, we're gonna continue on with the meeting. BOA 24-10, AC Builders LLC, 126 Lenox Avenue, Plumpton Lakes, block 6900, lot 6, zone R4. Applicant's here.
Good evening, Board. Dustin Glass from Summer. Well, no, I'm the attorney.
Oh, you're an attorney, okay, I'm sorry, I
No,
apologize.
you're fine. Yeah. It's like, I could do that too if you want me to testify.
I apologize.
Dustin Glass from Semiraro and Farney on behalf of the applicant ACC Builders. The applicant is here in the audience, will not be testifying, at least not planned. We do have a planner tonight to go through the application. What you have before you is an application for a bulk variance relief for a fence that has been installed. Obviously required a permit to do so or required relief to do so. The applicant didn't get that. You'll have the denial letter in your possession. It's for a 6-foot-tall vinyl fence in the front yard setback. This lot is a corner lot, so it has 2 front yards, which obviously makes it a little unique. The fence was installed a little over a year ago, and we're now here trying to get, relief for that. And with that, I think it'd be best if I brought up our planner to provide some planning testimony, describe, I'll say, the project, the fence, where it is, and the reasons for why we should be entitled to the relief.
Okay.
Please just remain standing, raise your right hand, state your name, spell your last, please.
Yes, Charles Height, last name is spelled H-E-Y-T-T.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give this evening before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Make sense?
I'll go through some background questions to qualify the witness, if you don't mind. Mr. Height, what's your education?
I have a bachelor's of economics from the College of New Jersey and a master's in city and regional planning from Rutgers University.
And what is your profession?
I am a professional planner.
And your present employment?
Dresden Robin, we're an environmental planning engineering firm.
Then how long have you been there?
I've been there approximately 7 years, will be 8 in January.
Can you give a few examples of towns that you've provided testimony before?
I appear routinely throughout the state of New Jersey at planning and zoning boards, mostly for development applications, for site plan approvals, for mixed-use residential development. There are oftentimes for accessory uses, but in terms of this area, I should be looking at a map and I'm blanking now, but Wayne, Parsippany, I'm trying to think of a few others, but name two.
I would submit it to you to qualify.
Absolutely, yep, I agree.
All right, with regards to the property at 126 Lenox Avenue, could you take me through a little bit of your investigation and what you did to prepare?
So yes, we did look at the documents with the application, the as-built survey. We did have discussions with the applicant and the project attorney. I also did a site visit today. Prior to today, I also reviewed the municipal documents, zoning ordinance, and master plan.
And could you describe the property?
So the property is a single-family residential property. There's it's approximately 2.5 stories. It sits at the corner of Lenox Avenue and Romaine Avenue. There's a driveway off of Lenox Avenue. The width or the front of the property is oriented towards Lenox, and the property runs deeper along Romaine Avenue. There is an existing detached shed in the rear corner, and that's, I guess, a general description.
And could you describe the project, although...
So the fence in question is constructed. It does begin at the rear corner of the principal structure. It comes to Romaine Avenue approximately 5 to 10 feet, and then it runs along Romaine Avenue to the rear property line, and then back over to the detached garage. So it does kind of secure in that rear portion along Romaine Avenue. The technical issue is that because it is a corner property, as per the zoning ordinance, both the portion of the property along Lenox and Romaine are both recognized as front yards. This board is probably aware of that. Fences are regulated differently in the front yards than they are in the rear yards or side yards. So we are, if I'm on a roll.
Yep, continue, go for it. I see where you're going. Continue.
We are requesting relief because of the fence being located in the technical front yard. A portion of the fence is actually located in the rear yard. That's fine. That can be 6 feet. It can be opaque. In the front yard, fences are regulated on 2 characteristics. One is fence height, 4 feet permitted. We are proposing, or as-built, 6. And the other aspect is the opaqueness. So it's got to be a 50% clear. You might consider the quintessential picket fence. Other fences in this area are chain link fences or a farm style fence with long linear posts and posts. So that's the technical relief. It is 100% opaque, so I guess the reverse would be 0% open appearance. And it is at the 6 feet along Romaine. So these are what's called bulk variances. This board's familiar with that term. It's a lower jurisdiction than any sort of use-related aspect. It's a single-family home in a residential zone. The use is not in question. But in terms of justifying the bulk variances, there's 2 standards. One is a hardship standard. The other is where benefits outweigh the detriment. So I would not rest on just the fact that it's a corner property and therefore it's a hardship. The ordinance is written specifically for corner properties. What I'm going to offer this board in terms of justification is that there are specific attributes of the property where the physical home exists, where the fence was constructed, that has some appropriate design benefits in terms of dimensional aspects that outweigh the detriment. So that's the flexible standard. Again, recognizing that it was constructed without permits, without coming to this board, that's not necessarily my purview. But had it not been constructed, these are some of the aspects that we would have looked at that would have helped kind of weigh a decision for this board to make. So first and foremost, it is at a crossroads of Romaine Avenue and Lenox. So just to describe that intersection in a little bit more detail, Romaine Avenue is the main thoroughfare, and Lenox is the side street with a stop bar at that intersection. I should mention I have photos, probably do better than my description.
Yeah, if we could mark these as, I guess, exhibit A1.
A1, I'll mark one
There's
for,
photos
No,
here,
no,
right?
these are separate. These are from the
Separate.
site visit today.
Okay.
Oh, the new pictures.
Correct, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
A1.
just describe quickly what
Yep,
A1
it's
is.
a 3-page exhibit of photos. I took them today. It has a total of 6 photos, but it's 3 pages, 3 sheets. So A1 to secretary?
Yeah.
I have 10 copies. I don't know who.
We can share, so if you, I'll give one here. We'll do, yeah, one here, we'll take care of that. Same all the time.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So I'll just double back with the description. This is viewing the property from the intersection. I was safe when I was taking these. There wasn't much traffic. It was about 9 o'clock, 9:30. There are 2 schools in the area, the middle school, the high school. It's in between both schools, so a lot of walking occurs. I can understand some of the safety concerns that I'll get into with pedestrians, but this is the first image, figure 1, is a view of the structure. It did just go under renovation on the exterior, so it does look nice and updated. Figure 2 on the first sheet is at the rear of the property, again along Romaine. You can see the length of the fence along Romaine. At the end of the fence, it does return back to the house, but this is on Romaine. Just noting that the fence is set back from the sidewalk approximately 3 feet, so there's sufficient space on both sides. It's not abutting the sidewalk, it's not right on top of it, so from a pedestrian standpoint, there's a nice bit of space between the fence and the sidewalk. If we go on to page 2, what I did in trying to understand characteristics of fences within this proximity, I'm not looking at fences on what's called interior lots. We're really looking at fences on corner lots. So I went to every intersection in a 1-block radius. There's a total of 9, including this. So the 3 north, the 2 on the sides, and the 3 south. I would say half of them don't have any fences. The next quarter have what you would call either a chain link fence or a picket fence. And the last few are some that I've collected here that show you different renditions of similar situations where they would need variances. So in doing this, I've understood why some of these properties are fenced like this, a couple other tidbits, but first and foremost, figure 3 has what you would say a 5-foot-high wooden fence. You can see the home is oriented to the viewer of the photo. So this fence is again kind of closing in the space beyond the home in the side yard, which is an extension of the rear. Hope that was clear. So the front space in front of the yard and including both front yards is predominantly open. Again, in figure 4, it's a very similar characteristic where the home is oriented to the side street off to the right, and you can see what would be the side of the home into the rear yard. That fence, it's farther back, is located within the technical front yard because it comes to the street at a corner property, but it's enclosing the rear space. So both of these examples are very similar to what's being proposed or requesting relief tonight. Again, these two examples did have 100% or zero open appearance. I found many other instances where it was a picket fence with an extremely dense hedgerow that was upwards of 10, 15 feet. The same issues from a zoning standpoint are not being addressed in that situation, but technically it complies. If we move on to sheet 3, the last is again, picture 5 is an example of that combination where it's I would say a 3-foot or a 4-foot high opaque wooden fence. But in this instance, there's probably an additional 10 feet of dense evergreen vegetation. So it completely screens that portion of the front yard. Again, not saying if they're approved, they're existing, we should be approved, just providing evidence of existing conditions to speak a little bit more about the intent. The first and foremost reason that I think this board should be comfortable with what's being proposed or the relief being necessary is two aspects. One, what's called the site triangle in planning or civil engineering terms is the position at a driver at a stop sign, how far they can see through the intersection for opposing traffic. This is that point. I lowered the camera to what's approximately 3.5 feet for a sedan. Obviously trucks are higher, but they have a better visual looking down. And then I'm standing at the stop bar looking through. So the interesting thing when you do this is there's a bend in Romaine Avenue. This is unique to this property, this intersection. That bend actually moves away from the subject property, and you can see the next intersection beyond this one. So not only is there sufficient site triangles for 3 positions of a car on Romaine, but you can see anyone stopped at the next intersection. That's the geometry of these streets. I think that's a unique and mitigating factor. The proposed fence is also located approximately 75 feet away from Lenox Avenue. So again, another very physical, real dimension of this property. If this fence is closer, if it's truly at the front of the structure, you would not be able to say the same. So because it starts at the rear of the structure and the property's deep and there's already setback, there's approximately a 50-foot setback for the structure itself, 45, you have a lot more distance from the fence to Lenox Avenue. So those are some of the photos and part of the initial justification. From a design aspect, the intent here is a new fence. It's two-tone. The rationale for proposing the fence is to provide some privacy and security from Romaine Avenue, which has through traffic. There's no stop bar on Romaine, so there's a lot of through traffic, just preventing any interaction with what is a rear yard for this property to Romaine Avenue. So that does provide some safety for future residents or the current homeowner and any young children or pets. It's not a fully enclosed fence, but anything running into Romaine where there's oncoming traffic, it would help prevent. We did look at the master plan. I do recognize that the zoning ordinance was recently changed to come up with the 4-foot high, 50% opaqueness. But part of the master plan recommendations that we looked at focused on making sure that the safety of the site triangle is met, and those aspects would help that, a 4-foot high picket fence. But what I found in some of the examples is the minute you put dense evergreen vegetation, that goes away. So there are instances where there wasn't even a fence on corner properties, but just a thick hedgerow, and it defeats the purpose of safety. So I think in this instance, we're still meeting that intent of the master plan and the zoning ordinance, albeit we do need relief. 2 feet, an additional 2 feet being proposed, and the opaqueness. With respect to special reasons for a bulk variance, you look at the land use law, I do think we're advancing Purpose I, which is a desirable visual environment. This is a new fence. It is consistent with the overall exterior of the renovated structure in terms of the two-tone gray characteristics. So I don't think it's standing out in terms of the property. And it's an overall associated with upgrades to the overall property. In terms of the negative criteria, as I mentioned, the master plan intent, I think we're not substantially impairing that, but really we are trying to meet that intent, and in this location, it still provides that safe site triangle. And lastly, with any sort of substantial detriment to the public good, they're more or less one and the same. Kids are going to be walking along these roads to and from the schools in the area. They're going to be trying to cross the crosswalk safely, and they're going to need to be protected by motorists stopped at the stop bar, being able to see oncoming traffic and pedestrians, and that will still happen. So for that reason, I do think it's not an impairment of the zoning ordinance because of the specific nature of the property and where the fence is located in this instance. That's my direct.
Just one other question for you, if you don't mind. You mentioned that, I guess I'll say subsection I supported the requested relief. Did you identify any other MLUL provisions that also supported?
Yes, so I was going off my rehearsal and my computer stopped. But Purpose A is to give guide appropriate development in the state of New Jersey. So obviously that's the review of this board, making sure that certain standards are being met and recognizing the safe site triangle. And then the Purpose C is to provide adequate light, air, and open space. So in this instance, we are still providing that front yard open space along the majority of Romaine Avenue, as well as the full length of Lenox Avenue. So those were two others when you're looking at the details. Again, these standards are set for large and small site plan applications. This is a very minor application for an accessory structure. Still has to be discussed, but that's the purposes that I would identify for this application.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, I do. So, while I understand the setbacks and that line of sight is more than adequate, I do have an issue with the height of the fence. If you look in your neighborhood, there's no other fence that's this high. There's other fences that are 5 feet high, but they have the lattice on top of it. And it has come before this board before, where we consider applications before they're constructed and ask for forgiveness later. And we then make those recommendations that it's a 4-foot fence max with a foot of lattice on top of it. To construct this in the manner that it has been, then ask for forgiveness later, I take exception to that, because we have ordinances in town that require people to do this so that this does not happen. So for me personally, being a resident of this town and driving around and seeing this fence the way it was instructed or constructed, and then ask for forgiveness later, I just think that it leaves a little bit. Otherwise, I'm concerned that if we allow these types of size fences to be built, especially on corner properties, as visible as this area is, we're setting a precedent, and I'm concerned about that.
And to go off of what Willie said real quick, so they did go to Sal before construction existed, right? Did they go to Sal before they
I don't
constructed?
believe so.
They didn't, so they just constructed, because,
The fence was constructed, yes, without approvals.
okay, so from what I understood, is they did go to Sal, but then told they needed a variance, but then decided to build the fence anyway.
No. So it was the notice of violation was issued after the fact.
Okay,
So-
okay.
I think the chairman's comments, I understand there were more comments. Every time I provide testimony, there's never justification for precedent of what exists. So I made that clear, based on the study I provided with the photos, and there wouldn't be precedent setting, beyond this.
I'm sorry, what do you mean beyond this?
This would not set a precedent.
Well, it does set a
We don't
precedent.
agree with that.
Because what we have done in the past, when people have come to the board requesting the height of this fence, we basically said, no, you're gonna build it as such and have a foot of lattice above it. So this way you don't have this 6-foot fence. So I sort of disagree with that part of that testimony.
I'd also like to add, what is the required setback?
It would be occupied in any portion of what would be the rear yard, so it would be the line continuing the side of the structure to the rear yard. I would say that those are 8 feet long, so it looks like approximately 20 feet. It would have to be moved.
I believe the setback is 30 feet in the R4 zone for front yard setback, but we would all agree that if it followed along the building line, we would never argue with that. We would, in my opinion, and that would never be something that we wouldn't grant a variance over. But I disagree with this being a good-looking fence, because it stands out, and all you're seeing is a fence, and it doesn't seem right, okay? Can you imagine the entire town with everyone that has that situation that wants to use more of their yard? And they say, well, if he can do it, why can't we? And this is the problem that we're talking about precedents, especially on a street that everybody's driving by. It does not look appealing to me.
Well, I have an issue talking about setting a precedent. If we go along with this, who's to keep other people from putting up a fence or building something and then seeking permission
That's my concern.
down the road?
We could ride around town and see 6 and 8 foot fences everywhere, and then someone would come and say, well, I need a variance for it. I already spent, $12,000 to put it in. I believe you said it wasn't within your purview to address that, but is there a reason that nobody bothered to get a permit?
I came after the fact on that issue, so
I can just represent the applicant didn't go get a permit, and obviously he should have done so, and that's why we are before the board. I have nothing to add other than, it obviously should have been done, and I think everyone is aware of that. The applicant is aware of that now. Should have been then. I know he has spoke to Sal about it after, and then, once the denial was issued, said we would take the application to the board to try to get the relief that he sought, and so here we are. I understand the board's concerns about other similar fences going up. I would just add, every application does stand on its own. At the same point, I understand your overarching concern, but I would just add from that point of view that every application that comes before the board obviously is judged on its own independent merits.
Absolutely.
I just think aesthetically, it's an eyesore on the corner of Lennox and Romaine. It just... I don't know how they fix it.
I will say this is probably the newest fence in at least 2 years on any of the corner properties that I've looked to. So I looked at the 9 intersections, and most of them were older and wood, and just
I
by
could
the
tell,
quality of
I
the
could
wood.
counteract that by saying to you, if you drive down Lincoln Avenue on the corner, Lincoln and Harrison, that applicant came to us before he constructed, and we worked together to line of sight issues out of their driveway and the height of that fence. And we did not allow them to go any higher than what they have.
That wasn't
So-
one of the intersections I looked at.
No, I
So
understand,
I believe
but
you.
what I'm saying to you is that if someone comes in front of the board, there is past experiences that came before the board and that we worked with the applicant to determine what was aesthetically pleasing to the neighborhood. And as a member did say, that this is a very large fence in that intersection. Anybody else on the board?
Willie?
Yep.
The other issue that you haven't addressed is that Romaine Avenue is not a straight line road. It's on a curve.
Correct.
And there are quite a few children, middle school, elementary, as well as high school students that use this street to go back and forth. And the line of sight is really important here because some little people are crossing that street, and with this size fence, you cannot see them, especially if you're on the curb.
I would just submit, I think that our planner did testify to the effect, his testimony obviously speaks for itself, but did testify to the line of sight and that there is a clear line from one intersection straight, the names escape me now, so this is a general comment, but from one intersection straight down to the other, that it actually, by virtue of the curve in the road there, it actually works to the advantage of the property in terms of being able to see from one intersection to the other.
Like, I
don't
believe
think
I
line of
disagree
sight
with you.
is an issue. But the site that you see, it's basically, if this neighbor can do this, you've got everybody in this town driving by saying, well, that's where I want to put my fence. They want to use as much of the yard as possible. That's common, okay? But when the person bought this house, they would have known what the setbacks are, they would have known what the guidelines are, and should have made that decision of what they're willing to pay for a property that's on a corner. That's part of the decision that you make when you're buying the property, that it has some limits. And so I just can't support having this fence all the way out to the road. If it was going to be, along the line of sight of where the structure is, that for me, but I can't speak for the rest. That to me is something that, but then even there, this is the only 6-foot fence that we're seeing in that immediate area that I'm aware of that's right on the front, like this much fence. It's one thing, I think it was only like 10 feet, but.
So to that point, and I don't want to speak for the rest of the board, but is that, understanding some of the comments that are coming from the board, is that something that the board would be more amenable to, or is that just one comment, which is fine, obviously, but?
I'm thinking that the height of the fence is also an issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be an issue in going forward with townspeople, seeing that this board approved a height that is not part of the ordinance. And then there's gonna be an onslaught of, requests for, why did you allow this to happen? We have a responsibility to the townspeople, and that's why you guys are here as well. You're here on behalf of your applicant.
Correct.
However, we are representing our townspeople. Number one, for the height of the fence is like, has been brought up here, is very high. Number two is that then we're gonna set a precedent that it's gonna be allowed, or then just construct it and then they'll just waive it. I'm very concerned of how this whole process went with this property. So I'm not quite sure what you're asking. Is it something that we would consider? That's gonna be something that, you're gonna have to make those determinations based on what you're hearing from the board. So it's been part of our practice is that we only allow certain heights on side yards, on fences, or certain height on side yards. But that's something that you would have to consider.
Understood. Can we take 5 minutes to speak with her?
Absolutely, 5 minutes.
Should I close it?
There's a pool there.
Should I close this?
Meeting back to order.
Just want to bring to your attention, your 200-foot notice appears to be sufficient, green card is sufficient. Ms. Bernstock is within 200 feet, did not receive it, but that doesn't change the fact notice is good. That's come to our attention. She's going to recuse, step down, not going to be participating in this because of that. So, correct? You'll be leaving the room now.
Okay.
Will not be participating.
Okay, so then, I guess, so just to be clear, then the board will not consider any of the comments from Ms. Burstock?
That is correct.
Okay.
Should we?
You are continuing.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, okay.
All right, so we had a chance to speak with our client. We'd like to try to work with the board here, understanding that what transpired obviously should not have. To the extent the fence remains in its location, my client is able to, it takes effort, but obviously can shave the fence down to a height of 4 feet and then put the lattice up there, which you would describe the fence as being, I guess, 5 feet in total, but 4 plus the lattice section. My client would be willing to do that. If the fence could remain in the spot, obviously he'll have to shave it and work with that, but that's definitely something he could do.
I don't think that changes the site of where the fence is. That's, to me, I think, is what really makes it stand out in terms of what the neighborhood looks like. I mean, you look at the town and you look at front yards and you look at postcards, it's not the look that you want to have in the town. That's what we're here to basically enforce, is what the town wants. And I don't see that as the look that the town is looking for. Because imagine that on every single house.
I get it. So it's still the concern would be with the height, because the location of the fence is
from the sidewalk.
But it's not actually, there's no variance requested for that.
If you're going with a 4-foot fence that's open, I think that this would be less of a conversation here.
You were just saying 4 feet, just if it was 4 feet in its location.
Just like you see in the picture that you have of your neighbor right across the street.
Understood. I understand what you're saying.
Then I don't think anyone would argue with that.
Well, then, I guess, and I don't mean to, but then at that point, then we're not, I guess we are before the board either way. So yes, you're right. But so I guess going back to my original understanding, it's not something that certain members are in favor of, though, to the extent the rest of the board, and I don't know if that's up for consideration. If the board's not amenable to that, then.
Well, what we would do then is we would then present your application for a vote, and based on that vote, it would either be approved or denied. That would be something that you would have to tell us if that's how you want to proceed.
No, I understood. I just didn't know if there were any additional comments from the board.
Yeah, I think you might want to know before he asks for a vote, if there's any other thoughts of the other members.
Correct.
With no commitment on what they would do, but they don't have to, you're not obligated.
Yeah, and move this, so it went like that, and it wasn't out this far.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, then it would be.
Explain to the applicant what you're asking, please.
What if, I don't know if this can be done, but, yeah. What if
One second.
you took
Someone-
out
One
the
second,
two-
one second.
Hold on.
Could someone open that
Yeah.
door? Got to be open to the public.
I'm just saying.
Not to me, but what if you took out 2 of the panels that are going horizontally this way and brought the fence in so that there was less fence on Romaine Avenue, but you still had the whole backyard? Do you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to draw it here.
Cut out half of the backyard. In this instance, the other half is the driveway to the detached deck, so.
Oh, so the other half is.
Yeah, that's
already
one
being
of
used up.
the unique things about this backyard is the reason and why I cited other instances. There's other reasons to occupy more rear yard space. One of these homes has a pool in another example. It becomes a balance between actually trying to get a rear yard. So in this case, part of that backyard on this property is unique, that it's a driveway area that extends. So and we did discuss, moving the location of the fence posts, which, we should make clear, a fence can exist in this area. It's just the height and the opaqueness. So I
Right.
think it is, obviously there's concerns about the visual nature of it, but in terms of where it exists, it's designed to try
Right.
and provide some.
But the visual problem is because of the opaqueness and the size of the fence. So I was trying to get rid of one of those things by moving it over, but I understand what you're saying.
I think in two aspects to consider are the fact that you don't even need a fence. You can put up dense vegetation that's going to grow 10, 15 feet and not need any relief from this board and create a unique circumstance that detracts from the site triangle. Right, so in this instance, this proposed fence is not doing that and also allows for that visual safety at the intersection. The proposed change, I think, works. It's not redigging new posts, but it's lowering the fence height to try and be more consistent. And the one photo at figure 3, 202 Lakeside, is the same proposal. It's a 4-foot, this is a wooden variety, but it's 4 foot with a 1 foot lattice. So when that idea came out, I think by the chairman, it did remind me of that proposed, that existing condition elsewhere in the neighborhood. So if it helps for a visual representation, that's what it would be. Lower, and believe me, a 1 foot change in a fence height is a substantial change. Most eyes, I mean, everyone has different height, but you typically have a viewpoint of about 5 feet, 5 inches. So if you're coming down to 5 feet, that average, most people are taller. That's just.
Plus you're getting the foot of, at 4 foot to 5 feet, so that the visual aspects of it is much improved.
The fence being 3 feet in from the sidewalk is not an issue, correct?
Yeah.
Correct. It's the height. It is a concern.
But it's not a violation.
Right.
Not when it's 4 foot and
Yeah, that's right.
50% open.
Correct.
If it was 2
And
feet
we're
lower,
not talking about that. We're talking about, you're saying 4 feet that's straight and only 1 foot above it that's open. And that's a very different, now, I don't know whether or not this was done before the ordinance or whether this was actually even permitted. So did you do any research on that, on any of the fences
No,
that
I
were provided?
did not pull building permits on the adjacent property. I think the other thing to consider for this board is we aren't here asking you to change the zoning ordinance. We're asking you here to understand our application, the justification that we've found to benefit, to justify the flexible standard, right? And that's a flexible standard that this board can grant, where you're identifying the benefits of the application over the detriments of this particular property. So again, the benefits are a substantial setback from Lennox. It is trying to secure the rear yard of this property. It's consistent with several other corner properties that are equally having fences in that rear yard portion. We are proposing to modify the height and the design to work with the board. And again, the negative sides are really, truly the site triangle. This is
However,
substantial.
we're not sure that that property that you depicted in your picture has been permitted. So you may be asking us to consider something that is not, and you're not responsible, we are now, because now we have to find out, in my opinion, if that property was permitted to build that fence.
Oh, I don't know how long the fence has been there.
I don't think it's that long ago.
Oh.
If I may,
Sure.
so I did speak to my client, although he believes 4 feet plus the 1 foot of lattice is actually more visually appealing, he would be willing to drop it to just 4. It would stay as the opaque. But he'd be willing to do that, but there was a thought that the lattice adds some, makes it nicer. I can't think of a better adjective, so you're getting nicer. But I'd be willing to do just 4. But again, I don't know if the board feels more favorably about that, losing that extra foot or losing the lattice portion.
I'm going to ask the lawyer, Andrew, a question. How do we go about finding out if that's been permitted or not to make this applicant, so that we understand that if that was permitted? Because I don't remember that coming before the board, and I've been on the board quite a bit of time. I don't remember that coming before the board. So are we considering this fence?
Got 2 thoughts on that. They're not, the reason they're pointing to this is not that it's been permitted. They're saying it doesn't have a bad impact on the neighborhood because other things that are there, like it, that you've allowed to be there. So that's it. Whether it was permitted or not is kind of a moot point. They're saying it's there, it kind of looks like the other stuff. On the other side, one of the thoughts you had before about this doesn't set a precedent, but what it does is, for the same reason they're showing you pictures of this, the next applicant will show you pictures of the fences being asked for now.
Yes.
But it doesn't really matter whether it's permitted or not. It's there, and so that is what the neighborhood looks like.
But
if it was illegal and it should be torn down,
it's a valid point, because then this property is in violation, and we would not have approved that either, potentially, because of where it is, and basically, you know what I mean? You're trying to compare the applicant's property to their property.
Yes,
So I'm not sure if this is a...
You can make the nuance of them saying it does not negatively impact the neighborhood, because look, there's other stuff in there. You can take a nuanced view of that, look of that. If you have familiarity and want to ask Sal, that yes, we don't, if you want to, we don't agree because you're pointing to other situations which aren't permitted or are illegally existing. And I don't know that to be the case. They might be permitted, but that is a legitimate, that would be a legitimate response to the testimony, hey, stop changing your neighborhood, it's already there. It would, if in fact that was an illegally constructed fence that shouldn't be there anyway, it shouldn't work to the detriment of the neighborhood. And you say, well, it's up there anyway, so it doesn't make a change if it's not supposed to be there. If you understand, like, you can have that nuanced approach to the testimony that was given. It is a legitimate question.
So what I'm trying to propose in what you provided in figure 5, okay, the photo that you have here, you can see the fence line is probably 10 to 15 feet away from the street, from the curb. I don't know the exact amount. I would suggest, I mean, in terms of understanding and listening to everything, at the very least, and I can only speak for me, is that one panel should be removed if you're not going with a 4-foot open fence and you're trying to get something that's in the 5-foot range with the opening, or even 4-foot, fence. But you got to bring this fence back in terms of what I see in the neighborhood, in terms of what I see that's appealing and what's not appealing. This, to me, the closeness, and it may not have been noticeable in another location. It's there, and there are instances that we've had in the town where a person had, on Dawes Highway, for example, okay, they had 2 front yards, but one of them's on a road where there's no houses there. It's just rare situations that we've had, but this one is not rare. This is not anything other than trying to utilize space. Now, there are other things the applicant can do. If they want more yard, they don't have to have the garage all the way where they have it. I mean, you know, I'm sorry, but there are other things that this applicant can do to have as much yard as any. This is a pretty good sized property here, 75 by 150. They got plenty of yard, but they got to get rid of that much driveway. That's another opportunity, that's another way that they can go about getting more yard space.
One thing to just point out, in figure 5, it's deceiving with the yard because there's no sidewalk, just pointing that out. There is quite a distance from the current application's existing fence where it is now in the curb. So that's a little bit of a difference from this current location. Again, we're not obstructing the curb and we're about 3 feet set back from the curb, so, we're I would say approximately 9 feet from the curb line, given the 3 feet, the curb itself, and the other side of it, if you look in figure 1. So, just pointing that out, that it might be a little, with the more
Well,
green, it
and
might
I was
look
just
well
using this
bigger.
as an example, something more visually appealing. So I'll point that out, just saying.
And that fence would need a relief for the opaqueness, because it's board on board, so we would still need that relief as well.
We don't,
4 feet.
we don't know, we can't speak for that fence.
If it was proposed today, it would need variance relief for being in the front yard and not being 50% open appearance.
So, are there any other statements, questions from the board for the applicant?
And any arguments about what surrounding area fences look like is going to your point that it's de facto setting a precedent, because people will use it as an example.
Yes, they are.
Every time.
Okay.
So like I said, I guess, I would offer the applicant is willing to make it 4 feet, with that just flat 4 feet. To leave it in its current location, I understand there's the comment to, I guess, eliminate one panel, which would, I guess, is roughly 3 feet.
Well, I believe it's 6 feet.
One panel.
There's 6 foot
Okay,
fences,
6 foot
right?
panels. Yeah, okay, oh, true, yes, so it's square. It's the applicant's desire, it would be a desire to leave the fence and have it be 4 feet. If the board feels strongly about, cutting a section off, I can speak to my client about that, but, the preference would be, modify it, take it down 2 feet and leave it as, in its location.
So at this point, when we need to open up for the public to come up, do we comment on that, or do we allow the public to?
I would think that it would be best before you go to public to know what you kind of going to be going forward with, and for the applicant to get a sense. So they've kind of proposed amending their application for it to be 4 feet in height, same location, and I think they're informally hoping that there would be some individual comments from the board members on how they would feel about that amendment. Because then the public knows what it's commenting on.
I would agree.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Folks from the board.
I would have to coincide with Frank that removing one panel would be more pleasingly acceptable.
Same thing, and bring it down to 4 feet. It's definitely got to come down to 4 feet.
So, just so I understand, if it's brought down to 4 feet, the only variance remaining then is the 50% versus the 100%. Okay, that's right.
Yes.
Correct. You commented?
I'm with Frank, I was gonna say,
Okay.
take the panel off that fence,
Mhm.
take the section off, that's 6 foot back,
Yeah.
and lower.
Right. Mike?
I'm okay with it 2 feet being taken off and leaving it in the same position.
Leaving it in the same position?
Yeah.
Okay. Leaving it in the same position, dropping it to 4 feet?
Correct.
Not taking the panel back and, okay.
No, because the setback from the curb to the fence line now is not an issue, right?
Correct.
Not for an opaque fence,
Right.
it's not an issue.
It's not an issue.
Right.
And you look at the neighborhood, and you look at the neighbors, anyone that's got it right up to the line, is a picket fence open?
Right.
Not even what he pointed out was a 4-foot fence with a lattice on top.
So I think you have your feedback from the board.
Okay.
Okay,
Can you give me just one moment?
absolutely. No.
Come on, 5 minutes, Jesus.
I've spoken to my client. I think in lieu of pressing forward for the variance relief, my client has opted to, however he goes about it, but to either remove the fence entirely or just make it a 4-foot picket, or 50%, whatever term you want to use, picket fence or otherwise. So to that extent, I don't know how the board wants to proceed, but we would withdraw the request for the variance relief, and proceed as such. Like I said, either removing the fence entirely or augmenting the fence so it is, code compliant, I'll just say that.
So you do nothing, they're withdrawing the application, the board will take no action.
Correct. And then I'll communicate with Sal as to what transpired, or obviously the board may as well, but I'll also advise him of what occurred and what my client intends on doing with the fence.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. All right.
Or you can come back in.
She left.
Oh, she left, she left.
Oh,
Okay.
No, no.
Oh, she's still there?
Yeah.
Excuse me, how do you spell your last name?
I'm sorry.
Will they be
Oh,
on
no,
the
there's a
timeline
green
to do
card
that?
that got sent to her house. So they did everything right. She doesn't remember getting it, they did, but that doesn't matter.
Thank you so much.
They
She's
sent
in
it.
it 20?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, they sent it, so they're good with notice, but she's going to see, so. She just remembered it.
Is there
Or
going to
didn't
be a
get it.
timeline for them to make
No,
this change?
That's up to Sal.
It's up to Sal.
That's, it's just an enforcement.
They pulled the application,
Right.
so there's nothing more we need to do.
The timeline is Sal, it's an enforcement thing. They are not seeking a
Well,
variance.
talk to Sal.
They have an illegally
I
built
gotta
fence.
tell you.
Sal
Want me
has
to
to be
pause
happy that they're
this?
tearing it down.
From
Or you can
here
just hit them with
From
violence.
this corner
That's up to Sal.
to
That's
the
up to
full
Sal.
back.
That's all, I'll give
and
Sal
up
a
to
tomorrow,
the
I'll let him
tree.
know.
That was
I'm sure
all
he's gonna
for
give him time
sitting.
to get out there, it's not, no
For sure.
rush, but.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not sitting down.
There was
Okay.
no fence there.
Okay, so, Dave,
Yes,
you okay?
yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
No problem. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to, resolution, BOA 24-06, Rich and Linda at 104 Popular Avenue, in Pompton Lakes. Everyone had the opportunity to read the resolution?
Yes.
Everybody had any comments or questions or corrections on the resolution? None? Can I get a motion to accept that resolution?
I'll make a motion to
So
accept.
moved as written.
Bacon Curran?
Second. Wonderful.
I have a roll call, please.
Bacon Curran or Curran and Bacon?
Bacon Curran.
Got it. Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Mr. Abate?
Yes.
Ms. Curran?
Yes.
Mr. Cost?
Yes.
Ms. Bernstock?
Yes.
Mr. Rowan?
Yes,
Mr. Baig?
Yes.
Mr. Padula?
Yes.
And Mr. Devontae?
Yes. New unfinished business. Jared's not here for open space. Mr. Mayor, can you comment on anything about open space?
Yeah, it was very punchy, we had the engineer there, so we approved, the open space committee approved to bring to the council to move the open space project at Littlefield to call for a vote from the council to approve the plans. So if you're not familiar with the plans, that means moving the T-ball fields from where they are to kind of where the old senior field parking lot was, closing off that whole right side, replanting the T-ball fields with trees, closing off the snack stand at the front of the snack stand so no traffic now goes through past the snack stand. And it would be a new senior girls and boys field in the old house, where the house was at the corner of the park. They're still questioning if we're going to put, there was a plan to put a swing set in there and a walking path around the whole outside. That's questionable on the costs. But most of that correct is open space county money. $540,000 is open space county money that we have to use, and if we don't use it, they're gonna take it back.
Can I ask a question regarding the playground? That's a floodplain down there, ain't it?
they're gonna allow that?
Yeah, we've gotten the permits from the DEP
Okay.
that allowed us to do all these things, but it's a cost thing now because it's been going on so long that the total plan with the playground and the walkway, it's around 860, 880, so we would have to come up with 300. So that's a discussion the council will have to decide what they want to do. But the Open Space Committee has voted unanimously, by the way, to move it to the council to vote on.
Awesome. That's good news. And the bridge, down in Hirschfield, is that slated?
That's way out.
It's still way out.
They're a year behind on the project. They're hoping to do it this summer. I don't see it happening.
Right.
But we have to work on summer camp and all those things.
Right.
So, if it's not this spring, it would probably be the following spring. But, so again, if the board is not familiar, we have a big plan in place down in Hirschfield Park, again with open space funds, to replace the building itself, with new bathrooms and a new upstairs, downstairs building. That's gonna look like a Adirondack kind of building with a big stone. New exercise equipment for seniors on the walking path, new walking paths, new playground. All these things are gonna happen down at Hirschfield Park in stages. The last stage would be the swing sets and things, but we can't do that. And the paving of walkways, which are in great horrible shape, but we can't do that until they put the bridge in. So that's the problem. Because the bridge is one piece, it's coming in as one piece, and we have to bring big footings on both ends to do that.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Do you want to bring up about historic, Mike?
Oh, you can, you're up there.
The state of New Jersey recognized the Pompton Lakes Historic Commission, gave us a nice plaque. Of all the historic commissions in the state, we got the plaque.
That's awesome.
They recognize architects, engineers, anyone who took part in preserving or restoring a historic property. And they picked one historic commission, which was us. And there was a nice banquet at Hinchcliffe Stadium. I keep forgetting there's no C in there. Last Thursday. And Laura Jennings has just done a phenomenal job with historic.
That's awesome. Good stuff. Good.
So we got to tell the state all about our great town.
That's awesome. Good. So I will open up the meeting to the public. Anyone from the public like to come forward and talk? Mr. Cruz, you have anything you would like to?
No, I was just checking.
So I will close the public session. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second. Everyone have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Christmas. We will not see each other until the new year.
Mike, I want to ask you something.
Yes.
It's not a fun night.
Maureen, you never got
Pull the application.
Right.
Now, who's the house owner? Is that your